Hello, my name is Suhan, and I'm a member of the Board of Directors for the Midwest Clinic. And it is my honor and pleasure to welcome and introduce our next presenter, Ms. Erica Silvadanes. She is the Mariachi Director at Lopez Early College High School in Brownsville, Texas, and is the Artistic Program Director for Strings and Mariachi at the Brownsville Performing Arts Academy. Today, she will be sharing with us some ideas on how to organize and incorporate mariachi as part of our strings program. This session was selected because we here at Midwest believe that music education is not just one genre or one culture or one heritage. Instead, it should celebrate a wide and diverse landscape of music and culture and also reflect the culture of our students in our classroom so that it's relevant to them and to their community. Mariachi music is just one example of this, and there's no one better to share how this genre of music can be incorporated into our program than our presenter today. So, without further ado, please help me welcome Ms. Erica Silvadanes.
Hey everyone, welcome to Mariachi for the Midwest, Fundamentals for Starting Your Own Mariachi Program. My name is Erica Silveranes and I am the Mariachi Director at Lopez Early College High School in Brownsville, Texas. I am also the Artistic Program Director for Strings and Mariachi for ROCA, which is Revival of Cultural Arts at the Brownsville Performing Arts Academy. I'm so excited to be here. Mariachi has been my entire life since I was in middle school, so going on 15 plus years now. And I'm very excited that if you're watching this, you want to start your own mariachi program wherever you are. This presentation is going to be your complete resource of everything that you need to get your program started. It's going to be also very interactive. There's things that you can click on for PDFs. There's links for YouTube videos that you need. There's links to Dropbox folders, anything else that you may need to get started with your mariachi program. With that being said, if any of you guys would like a copy of this slideshow, you can email me. My contact information is down there at the bottom at isoveranes@gmail.com or isoveranes@bisd.us. Feel free to reach out for me if you guys need any questions or if you guys have any concerns about starting. I am always available for questions. So let's get started. So first, before we even really get started and everything, I want to talk about the importance of mariachi. Like, why is it important to have a mariachi program in your school district? It's important because you, as a mariachi director, are going to be teaching string methods, brass methods, and vocal methods. So you're taking orchestra, combining it with band, and combining it with choir all at the same time. The string methods include violin, guitar and vihuela, and guitarrón, which we'll talk about in a second. Brass methods is trumpet, of course, and then vocal methods, you're going to have to know how to teach proper technique, as well as teaching the students how to sing in harmony. Another important aspect of mariachi is cultural exposure, exposing students to a culture and a music that might not necessarily be from their own background, and also language. I know some programs around the United States use mariachi as a language requirement for their school. Their schools allow them to use mariachi as a language requirement, which I think is really cool. So the main three that we're going to talk about today are going to be instruments, instrument style and song style, as well as resources. Like I said, this whole presentation is going to be one giant resource. So hopefully this will be everything you need to get started. So starting with the instruments, these are all the mariachi instruments in one picture, and we're going to go over each one just a little bit due to time restrictions. But again, it's got everything on here that you're going to need. So to start off with guitar, I have all the different parts of the guitar right next to it, as well as the string names that you would need. So you have all your 6 string names, plus you have your first, second, third, and fourth frets. For guitar and for vihuela, your frets are half steps. Each fret is a half step. Same for vihuela. Vihuela is a lot like a ukulele. It's just a little bit bigger, and it's also got that curved back that you can see. It's only 5 strings. A, D, G, B, and E. And then same thing applies. Each fret is just a half step up from the next fret. Guitar and vihuela are played primarily with chords and with strumming in your right hand. Mariachi sometimes does have classical guitar picking, but that's already getting into more advanced mariachi playing. So to start off, we're teaching them with strumming. So if you can see here, I have a picture of the guitar chords and vihuela chords that we mainly use in mariachi. At the top, it's got all the note names, and then down the left-hand side, you can see that there's major, major 7, 7th, minor, minor 7th, diminished 7th, augmented, and suspended 4 chords. So all of those chords are the bases that you need to get started. And like I said, this is going to be an interactive slideshow. So if I were to click on this right here, it's going to open a printable PDF for you guys so that you can hand out to your students. One more thing about vihuela and guitar, vihuelas use first finger picks, not banjo picks. So banjo picks are usually on your thumb. Vihuelas use first finger picks. And then the guitars use shell picks, which are bigger, rounder triangle shapes for strumming. And those guitar shell picks will also be medium tension. Those are the best ones to start them off with. We have guitarrón next, which is our bass. It looks like a vihuela, but a lot bigger, a lot bigger. They're very, very light. They're very light. So even middle schoolers can have guitarrones and hold them with no problem. You've also got the string names down here to get you started. Here again is also the guitarrón fingering chart for you. I have also circled certain notes here, A, C, D, E, and G, because basically for any ranchera, as long as a guitarrón knows those 2, 4, 5 chords, they'll be in great shape to start learning their first song. Again, also, click on the photo for a printable PDF so you can hand out to your students. And then guitarrones, to pluck the top 3 strings, which is A, D, and G, you pluck with your thumb. The next 2 strings, which are C and E, you pluck with your first finger. And then the final string A, you pluck with both index and second finger. I have a video at the end for you guys and a list of resources that goes more in depth on how to play guitarrón and how to really get this sound that you want. Because guitarrones, for the most part, are going to be playing 2 strings at the same time. Next, we have the violin here. You can see the string names, G, D, A, and E, and then the parts of the instrument for you as well. Again, here is a violin fingering chart that explains the notes. Again, if you click on it, it's going to be in a printable PDF for you. And then we have trumpet. Again, same thing, parts to the trumpet. And then we have a fingering chart going all the way from low F sharp to the C above the staff. Again, click on it for a printable PDF. And then finally, we have harp in mariachi. Harp is probably one of the last instruments you want to add to your mariachi. It's a little bit more complicated. They're a little bit more expensive also, but if you have the budget for it, mariachi harps are usually either 34 or 36 string. If you see down here, the 47 string is the pedal harps that we all know for classical music, but mariachis use folk harps or Celtic harps, the either 34 or 36 string. So I wanted to just quickly go through the instruments for those, because we might have some choir directors watching who don't know anything about strings. We might have some string people who don't know anything about trumpets and vice versa. So now we're going to get into some song styles. To start your mariachi group, mainly you're going to start with a song style called a ranchera. There's 3 different kinds of rancheras. There's a ranchera lenta, there's a ranchera valseada, and a ranchera polqueada. And these just mainly have to do with the time signatures. A ranchera lenta is going to be 4/4. A ranchera valseada is going to be 3/4, like a waltz. And then a ranchera polqueada is going to be 2/4 time. We usually start them off with rancheras lentas or rancheras valseadas. Rancheras lentas tend to be a little bit slower. They usually use sad lyrics. Ranchera valseadas can range from slow to fast. It just depends on what ranchera you listen to. And they tend to be some of the more famous rancheras, the rancheras valseadas. We'll get to swung eighth notes in a second, as you see under rancheras lentas, in a little while. Rancheras polqueadas I don't start my students off right away with those because it's a little bit challenging for what we call the armonía section. So the armonía section is going to be our guitarrón, it's going to be our vihuela, and it's going to be our guitar. It's a challenging for them because guitarrón plays on beat 1 and 2, and then the guitar and vihuela play on the ands or the upbeats. So it's 1 and 2 and so it's really hard to get them to go on the 1 and because they end up always playing on either beat 1 and 2 or the ands all together. These are 3 different song styles. There's a bolero, which is in 4/4, and it's you can tell a bolero because it has constant eighth notes in the guitar and the vihuela, constant downstrums 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and there's a lot of chord progressions that go along with a bolero. It's usually a 1 2 6 5 pattern or a 1 2 4 5 pattern. It just depends on the boleros for your chord progressions. And then it's a lot more legato in the violins and trumpet. Huapangos and sones are the next song styles. They're a little bit more for intermediate and advanced students. They're both in 3/4, and they have different ways of playing the guitar that aren't in a bolero or in a ranchera. You have an apagón for a vihuela guitar and huapangos, which is like a scratch that you do with your hand, which I also have a video at the end for you guys to learn how to do that scratch. And then also for huapangos, you use falsetes in the vocal technique. Falsetes are a quick change from chest voice to head voice that's very similar and characteristic of a yodel. So if you've ever taught how to yodel or know how to do that quick flip from chest to head voice, that's what a falsete is. And then for sones, they're technically challenging for armonía because they have a lot tougher rhythms to play. They're usually themed. And then for violins and trumpets, they have a lot of broken thirds. So one thing that I tend to do with my more intermediate or advanced kids is I have them work a lot on broken thirds. Now let's get a little bit into the style for each individual instrument. This is really important for mariachi. I tell my students that all of these tools for your tool belt are going to be just like tools that you use for jazz or tools that you use for band. A lot of what I teach my students stays in mariachi. What we play in mariachi stays in mariachi. Just like you wouldn't use jazz style or swung eighth notes like you do in jazz, you don't play that in band. You're also not going to use these techniques that we have in mariachi and play them in band either. So for violin, it's the same as classical technique for the most part. You have, with the left hands, you have finger patterns and shifting, lots of broken thirds, and string crossings are going to be the main difference. And then for the right hand, it's going to be lots of bow and lots of rosin. And then this is where we get into swung eighth notes. For sones and for rancheras, our eighth notes on the page are going to be written as regular eighth notes. But you're going to swing them. So it's going to be a dotted eighth, 16th rhythm instead. And I have a little note on the bottom that says full bow for eighth notes if possible on sones and rancheras is a technique called caballito. Caballito because a caballo in Spanish is horse. So it kind of sounds like a horse galloping. Caballito requires strength and agility, especially in the right hand for violins. Now, trumpet. Trumpet is one of the most characteristic of mariachi. You need to use a TAT for your staccato. So a tat, 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 opening and closing with the tongue articulation. Again, lots of broken thirds. There's going to be a lot of swung eighth notes. As for the tone and range, the range will usually be about mid staff to high or from the bottom of the staff to high. It's rare that we go below the staff. We tend to be a lot on the higher range. It's going to be also very bright and warm tone, very forward with the lips. And then the wide and timed vibrato is another very important characteristic of mariachi. I have my students who want to practice vibrato in trumpet and in violin. We'll practice eighth note vibrato, wah, 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 and then we'll go to triplet, wah, 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 and then we'll go to 16th notes, wah, 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 all with the metronome because that timed vibrato is very characteristic of mariachi. I put at the bottom, basically everything they tell you not to do in band. A style using tools from your tool belt, right? This is a mariachi's tool that I need to use. This is a jazz tool that I need to use. Same thing. For armonía, again, it's guitar, vihuela, and guitarrón. Guitar and vihuela are going to focus on strumming patterns. Vihuela uses a finger pick, guitar uses a shell pick medium. Again, it's going to be a lot of down, up strums, and then the apagones that we talked about, which is like a scratch. And then guitarrón, the style is going to be outlining the chord that the guitar and the vihuela are playing. So it's going to be a lot of 1-3-5s and a lot of 1 and 5 back and forth, back and forth. And usually they play 2 strings at once. The armonía section is our chordal structure and our percussion section all in one. So armonía is very, very important. And now for vocals. So a lot of times people say that mariachi is bad for your voice, and it's not. I teach my students proper choral technique. I studied with the Santa Fe Opera in New Mexico. So I teach my students proper choral technique, the difference between chest and head voice, matching pitch, proper placement, solfege, all of that I teach to my students. The style itself is going to be a little bit more pop than choral, again, with that wide vibrato, the same as the trumpets and the violins. And then one of the best ways to get the signature mariachi style is actually to imitate their favorite singers. So if it's a female, to find some mariachi singers that they really, really can identify with, and they start to listen to them, and then they can start to imitate. And then for the more advanced singers, both female and male, you would work on the falsete. The falsete is, again, that imitating of a yodel, where you can hear the distinct jump from chest to head voice. So one of the last things is the difference between middle school versus high school. So if you're going to start a middle school mariachi program, the 6th graders can actually start with essential elements on all instruments, on violin, on trumpet. You can actually adapt the string bass essential element book to guitarrón, and then use the essential element guitar book for both guitar and vihuela. It's going to take some manipulating and kind of like matching different numbers, but it's definitely possible. For middle school, all strings will start with plucking. Of course, trumpet starts with the mouthpiece buzzing. And you can actually start with individual strings for guitar and vihuela. High school, it's a little bit different. You can use essential elements to get them started, but they're going to get bored very quickly. So I suggest starting guitars with chords right away. Like if we're going to focus on A string for violin, teaching them where it is, you can start with the different types of A chords. So A major and A minor, and strumming along while you work with rhythm stuff. Armonía students, which again is guitarrón, guitar, and vihuela, they will usually advance on their instruments a lot quicker. So you have to find different things like chord scales, different things to keep them occupied while the trumpet and the violins catch up. This is the next two are important for middle school and high school, no matter what. You start with vocals at the same time with their instruments. You want to make sure that you teach them that the voice is as much an instrument as trumpet or as much an instrument as violin. So start with them at the same time. If anything, you might want to start with vocals first before you even get to the instruments. That way they start to get comfortable with singing. They realize that they can start here and then the progression is here, and they're like, oh, I learned so much. I didn't know I could sing. So a lot of matching pitch exercises and solfege are really good for that as well. So finally, at the end of this presentation, I have a bunch of resources for you guys. So the music resources on the left are going to be like books that we use, and then pieces of music that we use. So number 1, you have the Mariachi Mastery book by Jeff Nevin. Number 2, you have Simplemente Mariachi by Neil and Grijalva. Mariachi Mastery, I suggest for high school. Simplemente Mariachi, you can definitely do in middle school. Middle school is definitely going to be a lot better for Simplemente Mariachi. Number 3, you also have a Mariachi Trumpet Method book. I put 2 there, but you can find Mariachi Method 1, 2, and 3. And it's got a bunch of different exercises for trumpet. And then finally, at the bottom, I have included a Dropbox that has over like 900 pieces of mariachi music. Sometimes it's handwritten, sometimes it's actually like a finale PDF. The only thing with that is it is going to charge you if I think it's like $10 a month for that. But what a lot of people do is they pay $10 for the month. They go in, they pick which music that they want, they download it, they print it, everything, and then they just cancel the subscription. Next, on the right-hand side is where to order instruments and clothing. So where to order the traje if you guys have extra money. Um, Number one is going to be Mariachi Connection in San Antonio, Texas. You can find everything there. Number two is going to be the Armonia Music Academy in San Benito, Texas. They are going to be the ones who have the higher quality instruments from Mexico. They have somebody from Mariachi Nuevo Tecalitlan who makes their guitars, their vihuelas, and their guitarrones as well. And they also have smaller guitarrones for like a middle school student. Third is going to be the Mariachi Clothing Company in San Diego. And then, of course, West Music has a whole actual mariachi section where they actually sell Jose Hernandez trumpets and Jose Hernandez guitarrones as well. And then finally, your last thing that I have on here are video resources. So style and technique videos, I put a guitarrón technique, a guitar, a violin, a trumpet, and then a trumpet vibrato example as well. And then I put examples of song styles, Volver, Volver for a ranchera lenta, Hermoso Cariño for a ranchera valseada, El Pastor for a huapango with a falsete, a son jalisciense for El Son de la Negra, and then a bolero, which is Cariño. Huapangos and son jaliscienses, like I said, are more for advanced students. So if you would want to talk to me more about what a huapango is or what a son jalisciense is and how to play it, of course, reach out to me and I'd love to help you guys. Again, my contact information is isoveranes@gmail.com or isoveranes@bisd.us. If you would like a copy of this presentation, I'd be more than happy to send it to you. Mariachi is very in-depth. It's very technically difficult, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful music. It's easy to get students started with it. There are so many pluses to having a mariachi program in your school. So I highly suggest it to anybody who wants to start a program. I very much suggest it. With that being said, I appreciate you guys listening to this presentation. Thank you for coming and enjoy the rest of the Midwest Conference.